Hello and welcome to My Favorite Games, a podcast for game designers to geek out about games they like to play. Today, I'm super excited to host Matt Pini. Matt is a Midwest native originally from St. Louis who has called Hawaii home for the past 21 years. A little bit of a time change from me in Scotland, and probably a little bit different in terms of the weather as well at the moment. As one of four co-founders, CFO, and head of marketing alongside his friends at Dimm City RPG, he brings a passion for creative innovation and a love for emerging technologies to the table, which is quite different to a lot of what you think of when you think of RPGs and board games. He's relatively new to game development. Matt also enjoys kind of pushing boundaries and exploring new ideas. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to dig into some of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you for having me, Robert. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm particularly interested because uh, if you do listen to this podcast, we focus on physical games, whether those are RPGs or board games or card games. One of the distinct elements of it usually is that these are stuff that you can hold and interact with. And Matt, and you obviously Dim City RPG is going to be one of these, which I'm super excited to kind of dig into in a second. But your interest and your team's interest is a little bit beyond that, right? And so I think that's quite interesting. And you yourself don't come from kind of a board games background. In fact, uh, before we kind of get into that, the game that you kind of brought to your figurative desert island today is different. You didn't even bring a board game. It's NBA 2K. Tell me about it. What is it, and why do you love it so much?
NBA 2K, if people don't know, it's a basketball game on all the different major video game platforms. It's been out for a long time. It's got a huge online community. It's even a real sport at this time with the gaming community. Now, I don't personally get into that side of it. And this desert island does need to have electricity for me, but we can do it with solar. That's possible. Um, my approach to it, and the reason why I bring it on the desert island, and the reason why I love it, all really does go lockstep with my passions, and maybe a little outside what most people do, which online gaming. I don't want to go online and play a 10-year-old and get beat. Like, that's okay. I'm good with that. The
Clearly, that
reason
doesn't affect you or haunt you in any way.
Not at all. I don't even think about it every night before I go to bed. No, like I've tried it a couple times. And I'm like, no, these kids, That was a long time ago. I'm like, I'm good. So the thing I love about the game and where my passion lies in it is that I love creating players. So creating characters. I love playing many decades of seasons, and my favorite part is the way the players, the new player or the real players in real life will eventually retire. They go on, and kind of go about their way. And the players I've created or ones that are just created for you in this game, that builds this intrinsic value that I really love. Like I found myself basically playing pretend like I used to when I was a kid. And there was a buy-in there, and I saw the value, and I spent time doing it, and sure, it was solo by myself, but I just really was like, "This is fun." I'd be telling stories, making up stories. I create a character named Tom or whatever, Tom Jones, and he's this tall, and like inside, I was just like, a game would happen, the playoffs, he'd do something that was really cool. The NPC would like, play and do something. Sometimes I'd even just watch the games, which is, I just found it. I was like, this is fun. And I can't be the only one that likes to do this. And so it kind of started, well, it didn't start. I actually, back in childhood, this kind of actually started with a game called Bases Loaded. And it was a Nintendo baseball game. And me and one of my good friends at the time, Jeff, would play this game, and they didn't have, it was Nintendo, so you didn't have a lot of stats, and you could do limited things. What we would do is we enjoyed it. We'd write players' names. You could name them, I think. And we would write it down. We'd have manila folders with their stats. And like that was so fun, and I had a lot of passion there, and this is much of the same thing with 2K. So, it then drew me towards this character creation love and realizing that there's a lot there. When you spend the time and you know, put your time into something like that, it builds value. Whether it had value at the beginning or not, it builds this intrinsic value, and that's one of my passions.
So I think it's really interesting also talking, a little bit later, we're going to get into the fact that Dim City, the RPG genre is kind of purpose built for people who love creating characters. I think that's an interesting angle to dig into, but I'm curious about your kind of character discovery arc with these games that are intrinsically, they're tied to sports. To what degree do you think a game that allows for some, character creation or at least a way for you to dig into it in that way, both of those game examples that you cited, they have some sort of element tying them to the real world, in terms of, sports, right? So to what degree did like NBA 2K, for example, um, need the existing roster of players to get you excited enough to build new ones in that world? Or were there other elements to the game that fostered and encouraged the development of that, like, muscle of wanting to actually develop these characters in the first place?
Great question. I would say that definitely I was drawn in from the players that were in there for my love for basketball, and I really enjoy it. So there was that initial draw in to where it was like, oh, I really can't play outside per se. So like it was like I wanted to kind of take use that avatar and play in that role. And then the whole character creation, and this goes beyond character creation, like with different games, any kind of creative aspect to me is really exciting. But and hopefully I'm answering your question, but I think I was drawn in by the players that were there, and I think that is very important. I think for the marketing side of things for their game franchise, that's very important. Um, but I play an old game now. Like the game I play is like from 2020. Each one's a little different. And that one just was like, okay, well, this does what I like. And then also one of the things that kind of pushed me in this direction and also the emerging technology direction is that what I didn't like is I would spend all that time and I would create these players, create these leagues, and the processing can only go so far. Or even worse, and what is really more common is that a new game comes out, you can't carry your characters forward. That drove me nuts. And that actually has kind of pushed me on the path that I'm on. I think more that was a big catalyst.
There is this sense that, I mean, in general, the people are split, and I guess it's a continuum or spectrum of, what degree does enough information, what information is enough for you to be hooked enough into a world, whether that's sports world, fantasy world, a, cyberpunk world, what have you. What is enough and what is too much in terms of either responsibilities or just raw information for you to feel like you could get enough of a sense of this so that your characters, at least to you, feel really real. And I think that's quite interesting because one wouldn't think that sports games would lend themselves well to that, even though sports is some of the most dramatic, soap opera filled, it's one of the most dramatic and soap opera filled genres out there when you think of what actually happens in real life. You guess it is, you have entertainment, you have politics, you have sports, right? Like there are lots of stories that kind of are emerging out there that play out in the news a lot, every day. So yeah, that's super fascinating. I don't know if you're consciously thinking that or not.
No, I guess not. I'm just following the passion. I'm just like, how is this fun? Just yeah, that's what kind of drew me there. And no, it's very interesting though.
I remember, is dating myself, but, like, I remember playing NBA 2K and NHL 2K, more on the NHL 2K, but without any numbers next to them. Like, it was NHL 2K, that was, me and my brother were really into, and then NHL 2K1.
Is that
So this is like
Sega? Because I played that a lot, like, back in the Sega Genesis days,
no,
like
no, this is
oh,
PC.
okay.
This is like turn of the century PC.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, okay.
and so like it was like 2000, 2001,
Okay.
and I remember playing it. I had my Logitech joystick, and I could play as Yarmir Yager, and it was very cool and I blend my teams up, and it was very cool like that. So I didn't dive in deep like you did in terms of the actual character creation. I don't think you were able to. Maybe you were able to. I don't
No,
think you
but
were.
mine started, not to interrupt, but mine started, well, another game like that was ice hockey for Nintendo, where you could pick like a tall guy, a mid-sized one, or
Oh,
the small, or
cool.
the little chubby character. So like all of these just configuration, the
Yeah.
configurative ability, and optionality is like, I think that just, we are creators. We're all creators. And so and that's a big part of like what we as a team love, and I think a lot of people just like, I think it's, we like putting our signature on things, and being able to just have fun.
I think though that linked slightly to something that you said, just a minute or so ago about talking about like intrinsic value that is there when you are creating a character and how quickly that can also lead to disappointment if you're limited in some way. Like, you're still playing NBA 2K 2020, right? You're not playing the latest one. And there's a frustration there that you've put on work and effort, and you want to be able to move some of these characters and bring them forward, and that is one thing that a lot of people who play RPGs quite enjoy. They like the idea of building a character, and then you want to bring it to another game, you can bring it to another game, as long as they're not dead, right? Um, so when you're thinking about when like shifting gears a little bit and thinking about like Dim City RPG, first off, I guess taking a step back, tell me about it. What is Dim City RPG? What is it, and who's it for?
Sure, great. Dim City RPG at its core is an old school tabletop role playing game. We have a lot of the great classics. We have 8 character classes, and essentially it's you're in a dream world, and you play as either, 2 to 6 players. You play as either a dreamer or a dream master. Dream masters are like our DMs, and the dream master puts the scenario together. Players create their characters, dreamers create their characters, and then go on the adventure. And it's a very, we've come from the approach of community built storytelling. We want it to be very approachable. So like for people like me who are not originally from the RPG world, we wanted to make sure that, but I like, I guess if I, in a lot of cases, if I was, I would be like a bardish kind of player, I think, because I like to get in character. I think it's fun. And so, but like for most, and we call it creature punk. That's our theme. We're very theme heavy. The head artist, is one of my best friends, Scott, and his art is just amazing, and it's just all over this world. And we wanted to make it approachable, though, for people that are new, but also deep enough for the veterans. And our head game designer Todd, and our head developer, technology developer, and just RPG lover Ian, they are guiding that ship. Scott and I, the head artist, and myself, we meet every Monday and we talk about the game we've been building for a couple years. But a lot of times we listen because they just know so much more than we do in that arena. But the game is great. We can get in and play and just kind of let loose creatively, which is really something that excites us. I'm working on still understanding the best way to explain the game, and so hopefully that does a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, so creature punk.
Mhm.
Let's dive into that. What do you mean by creature punk?
So Dempsey,
Obviously,
Creature
it's on
Punk.
your shirt, so
Yeah,
clearly,
yeah, Creature
yeah,
Punk.
there you
So
go.
yeah, this is our homage. It's this cyberpunk. We're kind of like a cyberpunk and an infusion of fantasy, and then Creature Punk is like technology and like, I guess it would be like a organic magic kind of thing.
Oh,
So it's
nice.
it's this fusion, and it's just, yeah, it's really neat. But we love the term Creature Punk, and it just kind of fit, and we were like, yeah, this is like that. Yeah, it just feels gritty and like the world that is Dim City.
And so where did it all kind of start? Like, how did it come from? I mean, from idea. I mean, you've been playing games for a while. Your other, co-founders, uh, RPG fans like Ian, um, and how did that all come about? How did you get together and not only start talking about this thing, but decide, you know what, this is actually something we want to build ourselves.
Ian and Todd would play RPGs, sit around a table in high school, and they were in Illinois. I wasn't hanging out with them at this time, but one of my best, well, Scott, the head artist, Scott and I grew up together. We've known each other since we were like 5 years old. He's basically like a brother of mine, and he moved away and to Illinois, and I was in St. Louis, Missouri. He moved away to Illinois, and that's where Ian and Todd are from. So they all kind of hung out. They would play games. Scott wouldn't play, but he would draw. He's just so good. He's another world creative artist. Like, I can't say enough. And one of the biggest reasons of me doing this first field guide book and participating in this game is because he just is too good not to be creating this. I want to see his book. I've seen compendiums and things growing up, and I was like, these are so neat. I'm like, you need to make one. And so like this book just is really, there's a lot there. This really satisfies something for me to see a brother win like that. But they would play the games. Scott would draw characters and stuff. And then Dim City just kind of evolved out of that. And this was, back in high school. So this was quite a long time ago. So they would play, and that's kind of where it started. And then things kind of have come around, and we're in a world today that we feel like parallels this game almost eerily because of these issues that we are coming across when dealing with technology, different emerging technologies. And this world, this creature punk world, really feels like it's a fight of, good and evil, the evil being a centralized, controlled, on grid, taken over world, where Damon is the evil leader. You decide if you want to fight for him or be a part of the rebellion, whether you want to be on grid, off grid, these kinds of things. And so it all is just really, it just brings up the questions that really we're all asking ourselves right now. And yeah, there's a lot there, but I hopefully that kind of answered that part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. s- uh, Thinking about emerging tech, especially, I'm fascinated that you kind of like you're dealing with this within the game, and you're looking at comparisons with our world right now, and some of this technology is emerging at a pace that's a bit uncomfortable for some, and it's also emerging in a way that is often dismissed by others as, not really, as life-changing as some would, try and, purport it to be. You yourself are quite, an enthusiast with a lot of this stuff. So what's your take on it? Like, in terms of, do you always play with with Daemon? Or what are the kinds of, ways in which you can see using modern technology in gaming, that you don't necessarily, think that folks appreciate yet?
Sure. Great question. And always have to start with this. This game is being built as at its core a old school tabletop role playing game. So that's what that's how we're pushing. We understand how the community looks at these technologies, whether it's AI or blockchain, either one of them. We completely understand the sentiment. And we're building this game, and we will build this game to where it's played with you can play with the field guide if you want to go deeper as we build more, which we've got a lot in the works as far as material and content. And also we want to play. We're very big believers in the players that play can contribute content, and it can be community storytelling. So with the technology, whether it's blockchain, which at its base level and is a way to identify ownership of a thing. It's just a network that shows numbers attached to different things, whether it's a character, We are not, whether it's a character, whether it's a interaction, an event, you can kind of timestamp those things. So when what excites me a lot about that is that with these social experiences in gaming, if you want to go that route, and we haven't built anything there per se. I mean, we have a little bit, but it's not a part of this game. Okay. This is a very delicate area. It is super delicate. And we're divided
Why do you think it's so
because
delicate?
the role playing community is not, in our experience, and our game designer and our developer, they both are like, look, n- we can follow our passions and build in that space if we want to down the line as optionality if people want to. I personally think having an oracle that can help me get into the game, for someone that won't sit down and read a man, I'm not going to read the whole field guide, and if I do, I'm gonna have to read it like 7 times. Like, I'm just one of those people. So, like, being able to utilize as a dream master, utilize an oracle to help navigate, ask questions to about the world, that can become a tool that's very useful. I look at these technologies as something that, yes, if done wrong, they can be really bad. And I see it all the time. I am in on the ground floor of the crypto industry. I spend a lot of time there. I love different parts of it, but I see lots of bad things too. But I also believe that whole space is it's kind of showing and teaching a lot of us over there what's not good and how we can fix certain things. So the ability to, just to step back to the tools, if we use these as tools, optionally be able to have the ability to use these as tools, not required to use these tools. Can't say that enough. This is the head game designer Todd's like, because he is not, he's like, no, we're not even saying the word NFT. Get out of here. And I get it. I get it. I get it. Even though I spend a lot of time in that space, and I do find some value in what they call Web3 gaming. I see a lot of cool stuff being built on a daily basis, but it also, I see a lot of problems. And so I believe that my reason for being in that space is to understand the terrain and to make sure that if we build tools as options for people down the line, um, you know, how can we do that the right way? And make sure it's not play to win. Make sure it's not, these different things that can just ruin it. This game, and from my experience with role playing games, the value is in the social experience and in the community creativity. But I also think when you have networks of creators, creativity becomes exponential. Now, I guess that could become over too much. It could be, and we're learning. But um I do have a love for a lot of that. Is, on the AI side, being able to create your own NPC that then other players are able to do a campaign with, that is really cool. And then if you have the ability on a network to say, okay, remember that adventure? My character did this. Look, you can see it. It's actually in the analog of history within Dim City. If that was okay, again, yeah, I can't reiterate enough that this is not a, you gotta believe in this, do this. No, no, you can hate all these technologies and you can completely love Dim City RPG. That's very important to us.
It's fascinating because clearly you're quite enthusiastic, about a lot of these things. And elsewhere in gaming, there is a lot of excitement about some of these technologies as well. Um, and elsewhere in all sorts of kind of creative industries. But as you point out, especially when looking at tabletop games and tabletop gaming, there's been quite a visceral reaction to a lot of this stuff. And some of it is from a moral perspective, in terms of like rights or proper credit for artists. Some of it's economic, similarly, are you then going to do away with artists? You're just taking advantage of all of the work that they did before. And then some of it is, maybe a reaction to how, the environmental impact of some of this stuff, I think is a big consideration that some people point to. And then just a lack of maybe understanding or familiarity of blockchain for anything other than
Mhm.
scams, right? So like there are definitely reasons
Sure.
why people have these reactions. What I've been surprised by is the intensity with which those reactions are present in the community. I don't actually necessarily think that's a bad thing. I quite like that. I'm interested in why that's the case. And I guess the thing that I come back to is maybe the fact that a lot of this stuff is so physical and it is so intimate. And part of the interest in the development of RPGs, of community based, storytelling is having humans, behind that rather than, let's say, AI. But at what point is it still a human versus is it not? You can look at this on art, for example, and I think this is oversimplifying it to a huge degree. But Mid-Journey, everyone seems to agree that that's a generative AI blended image, and we don't like those. So what about Photoshop's, like a Photoshop brush that was trained on, on different subject matter, many of which wasn't done, appropriately. Is that okay? Is that allowed? But if it's done by a human, so um, I find this whole subject fascinating because everyone has different answers to it, but oftentimes when you probe a little bit, there's a it's hard to figure out where the line should be drawn in the sand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and this is something that we've talked about for hours and hours and hours and hours. A big part of it because of where a lot of the time that I spend in the space and my excitement for it. But we are not lost whatsoever on. We're coming from a point of view of just like everybody else. We can be replaced with this technology. We don't think it's something to run from, nor run directly to, but definitely to be educated about. Which our head developer is a mastermind. The he's so good, Ian. He's fantastic, and we talk about how to. Okay, attribution is extremely important. Under if you use any kind of AI, which we have not used any AI in this art, it's all organic Scott's art, nor the writing. Now, it doesn't mean that we haven't used for, let's say we're writing and we want to use AI to help us do some editing or something like that. Not create content, but to do any kind of editing. That, and I'm not even sure how much Todd might have done there, but we talked about this and we know the importance of attribution to the artist. That's where we're coming from is as the artist, whatever that is, whether it's code, whether it's written word, whether it's I do some video and audio production and things, whether it's that or Scott's art, we understand and see the what's going on here, and we want to be able to navigate that, help others, and try and see how can we do this without ignoring these blatant issues like that are valid concerns. Like a lot of it's all very valid.
So another aspect of how you and your team are going about this is, especially with technology, you are developing tools to help you guys develop this game, but then you're giving those tools away. Like you're making these available for other people to use. You're releasing them as open source, tools. I think there was a simulator, like a tabletop simulator type thing that you guys are working on. Can you talk through like your approach or your kind of philosophy when it comes to developing this game and how much you guys are sharing with the wider community, through that process?
Yeah, we're very much fans of open sourcing technology. Ian has created like a virtual tabletop portal in its early development, and we just like any of this creating. We believe that a bigger network, more community, more people putting in is exponential in its output. So this goes for with the technology. We are, very big in the open source community. We want to be able to provide cool things we build so that people can enjoy it, and maybe they build on top of it even further, because that's just like, oh, whoa, we didn't think about doing that. That's awesome. So we have like the virtual tabletop that at this point it's essentially where you can import a map, you have icons, and these are things that we're just building in the background. It's not, again, not something that's needed for the game or anything like that. But it's a tool that we think is cool, and I guess I really like it because I like that kind of stuff. So you can do that. And then that's a portal where you can send a code to someone, they can come in. So then the Dream Master could be taken, just like most virtual tabletops, I guess, where you can move it around, people can see, and we're adding to that. On top of that, he's also, we built like, we actually have a whole character creator console that is not open source at this time, but that is like where you can create the characters, you can put in the information, you can print your character sheet out so you can bring it with you, you can do whatever, those are things that we're building. And then lastly, he also has built solo RPG. It's kind of like the Wretched and Alone engine. It's basically like that, and we were just dipping our toes in there, and yeah, so we've got a lot of fun tools there that we like.
What's really interesting and very cool is that you guys are in a position to be able to create tools around an RPG that doesn't exist yet, which is very cool. But B, you are going further and releasing some of those to other people so that they could use it for their own projects, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, we love it.
So in terms of the actual vision that you have for this as a property, like it feels like you are thinking about Dim City as like an IP, right? You're focusing on community. You want to make it very easy for people to develop their own stories and engage with the universe in other ways. The RPG is your first kind of foray with Dim City. Is that right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
what other things are you guys planning?
Well, we first off, as far as the IP is concerned, we want people to come in and create and be able to just use whatever, as long as, well, we need to figure out how we're going to make sure that it's appropriate content, and that it would be acceptable to be, but we don't want to hold things. And the guys have not great feelings about some of the other approaches in the RPG space, and so we're very much from the ethos of open creative. Please build with the tools, make your stories. Let's see where this goes. It's going to be fun. And so as far as the IP, yeah, it's things we're learning too. We're new at this, so I'm kind of like, I'm doing some of the trademarking stuff and whatnot, like Creature Punk and that. But it's still a very much a learning process.
Are you thinking like more RPGs, more old-fashioned RPGs as you put it? Like are there other types of games or ways that people might be engaging with this universe that you guys are like that are top of mind right now?
Well, no, it's sticking with where our goal is to get out this initial field guide, and which then you can play the game tabletop, and get out the initial field guide to build a reputation so that people can see, and then we move to the next step of we have monsters compendiums, all different kinds of different things that the guys want to build and that we've written a lot of. We've been working for a long time, and our head game designer is not. He doesn't sit on his hands. Well, none of them do. But I mean, he's constantly building and working. But we have never been paid for this stuff. And so we have to start. We need to pay editors. We need to pay some, the artists, and just at least to where we can, like, I don't know, like, survive a little bit here so that we can keep building. But we're going to build regardless. But yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean that's the definition of a passion project, right? That it's exciting enough and interesting enough for you guys to build regardless. But speaking of getting paid, you guys are going to be launching this on Kickstarter. You're going to be crowdfunding this. Talk to me about why. Like, what were you always going to be looking at crowdfunding? Were why did you not think about like pitching this to a publisher um or selling it in some other way? Like talk me through the thought process behind Kickstarter and like your approach to it.
Crowdfunding falls in with our ethos, and it's just like, we don't have a lot of experience in that space, whether it's supporting or, just be honest, I want to. I've been head down doing this, but we just see that as a space that fits the ethos. It's Kickstarter, and we're also a part of Launch Boom. They've helped us because this is all new. And so we're not, I'll tell you one thing, we're not good at marketing. We are not good because we don't love the salesman feel. We never have. And it's been a little bit of a thorn. I'm probably the most salesman one, but it's just we want well, you just want people to see it and to see what you're doing. Yeah, it's like, what? Look at this heart we got here. This is passion, And so, anyways, with Kickstarter, just from researching, it just seemed like the right way to go. And Launchboom's been helping us and helping me understand the analytics of ad spend and how to look at those metrics, which I kind of like. That kind of also falls into a little bit of my data nerdy side that I like to dive into. But it's been incredibly helpful being in there, and I learning as much as we can. And Kickstarter just felt like crowdfunding is something that we think is going to build the community that we want to build alongside us.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking some time to share your experience and to geek out a little bit about NBA 2K with me today. If anybody out there would like to find out more about Dimm City RPG, you can find them on Facebook by searching Dimm City RPG with two M's. You can also find them on YouTube at Dimm City is their username on there, or by going to dimm.city, and that's with two M's directly as well. Dimm City RPG is coming soon to Kickstarter. Depending on when you watch or listen to this, it might be out already. All of the information you can find in the description below. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Robert. This has been awesome. It went quick. I really had a good time. And keep doing what you're doing. I'm learning a ton off your podcast. Like listening to them, I'm like, how was I not listening to this so long ago? There's so much good content, and all the builders and people that come on here. Thank you.
That's very kind.